There's a moment most cat owners have had, usually late in the evening, when the house has gone quiet and you're sitting on the couch with your cat curled somewhere nearby. You reach out to stroke the top of their head, expecting that soft lean in, and instead you get a slow blink, a little shift of weight, and then they hop down and walk 3 feet away before settling again. Not angry, not scared, just done with you for the moment. And in that small, ordinary silence, a thought slips in that most owners never say out loud. Does my cat actually love me, or are they just putting up with me because I'm the one who opens the cans? Here's the truth I want you to hold on to before we go any further. Everything you've been told about how cats show love is wrong, or at least so incomplete that it's quietly breaking the hearts of millions of owners who deserve better. The purring means happy rule. The lap cat equals bonded rule. The idea that a cat who hides doesn't like you. The belief that a wagging tail means the same thing it means in a dog. Every one of those ideas has been passed around kitchen tables and pet store aisles for decades, and every one of them has been either watered down, twisted, or flat out reversed by what we now understand about feline attachment. And the cost isn't just confusion. The cost is that thoughtful, loving owners spend years convinced their cat merely tolerates them, when in fact, that cat has been declaring loyalty in a language nobody taught them to read. I'm Dr. Andrew Collins. I've been a feline veterinarian for more than 22 years now, and I've spent a good part of my career watching kind, devoted owners misread the cats they adore. I don't blame anyone for believing the old rules. I believed some of them myself, until the research caught up. In 2019, a team at Oregon State University published an attachment study using an adapted version of the Ainsworth-Strange situation test, the same framework used with human infants, and what they found should have made headlines in every home with a cat in it. Roughly 65% of the cats studied showed a secure attachment style to their owner, a rate strikingly similar to human children with their caregivers. Cats bond deeply. They just don't advertise it the way we've been trained to expect. So today, I'm going to walk you through the 7 myths I hear most often in my exam room, the beliefs that have been quietly convincing good owners that their cat is indifferent. And I'm going to give you the replacement truth for each one. Some of these will sting a little. One of them, the very last one, might rearrange how you look at your cat tonight. Grab something to write with if that helps you. And a small housekeeping note before we begin. Nothing in this video replaces a visit to your own veterinarian, especially when something about your cat's behavior changes suddenly. The first myth is the loudest one. Purring means your cat is happy, and a cat who purrs when you pet them loves you. It sounds so obvious it barely feels like a claim. The purr is warm, it's rhythmic, it vibrates against your palm. Of course, it means happiness. That belief spread because, for decades, behaviorists genuinely thought purring was almost exclusively a contentment signal. It's a half-truth built on limited early observation. Here's what the current science actually shows. Purring is a self-soothing mechanism first, and a communication tool second. Researchers at the University of Sussex and elsewhere have documented purring in cats who are frightened, injured, giving birth, and even in the final hours of their lives. The vibration itself, in the 25 to 150 hertz range, appears to release endorphins and may promote tissue healing, which means a purring cat is a cat who is regulating themselves, sometimes because they're blissful, sometimes because they're bracing. The replacement behavior is simple, and it will change how you interpret every purr from now on. Don't ask, is my cat purring? Ask, what is my cat's body doing while they purr? Soft eyes, loose belly, a tail that drapes rather than tucks. That's a happy purr. Hunched shoulders, ears rotated sideways. A purr that starts the moment you touch a specific spot on the body. That's a coping purr, and it's telling you to check that spot with your vet. Follow the old myth for years, and you can miss chronic pain hiding in plain sound. The second myth, if your cat doesn't sit in your lap, they're not bonded to you. I hear this one from tearful owners at least once a month. They've watched other people's cats melt into laps on Instagram, and their own cat sleeps on the far end of the couch, and they've quietly concluded something is wrong. This idea spread because dog behavior taught us that closeness equals affection, and we borrowed that assumption without checking whether it fit the species. The current science tells a very different story. Studies out of the University of Lincoln in the UK have shown that cats regulate closeness through what researchers call proximity preference. And for many cats, particularly those with a secure but independent attachment style, being in the same room as you, oriented toward you, is the affection. The lap is not the metric. The shared airspace is. The replacement behavior is to stop measuring love by contact and start measuring it by orientation. Where does your cat choose to sleep when they have the whole house? Which doorway do they drift toward when you're working? When you leave a room, do they get up and follow even at a lazy distance? A cat who arranges their day around your gravity is a bonded cat, whether or not they ever touch you. Miss this, and you'll spend years grieving a love that has been sitting 6 feet away the entire time. The third myth. A slow blink is just a sleepy cat. This one is almost the opposite problem. Instead of overreading a signal, most owners underread it. The belief spread because slow blinking looks like drowsiness, and because it wasn't formally studied in a controlled setting until relatively recently. In 2020, researchers at the University of Sussex and the University of Portsmouth ran a two-part experiment in which owners either slow blinked at their cats or held a neutral face. Cats were significantly more likely to slow blink back at the humans who slow blinked first, and were also more likely to approach a stranger who offered the same signal. That soft, half-closed eye is now considered one of the clearest positive social cues we have ever documented in the domestic cat. The replacement behavior takes about 2 seconds and costs nothing. When your cat looks at you from across the room, soften your eyes, let your eyelids drop halfway, hold it for a beat, then look gently away. Don't stare. Don't lock eyes. In feline language, a hard stare is a threat, and a soft, half-lidded gaze is the opposite. It's the closest thing your cat has to the words "I trust you." Skip this practice, and you're leaving one of the easiest bonding tools you have completely unused day after day. The fourth myth. A cat who bites you during petting has turned on you. I've had owners tear up describing this. They were petting their cat, everything seemed fine, and then a sudden nip, and the cat bolted. They interpret it as betrayal. It's spread because we frame biting through a dog lens where a bite is almost always aggression or fear. In cats, the picture is more nuanced. Petting-induced overstimulation is a well-documented phenomenon in feline behavior literature, discussed in work from Cornell's Feline Health Center and echoed by clinical behaviorists at UC Davis. What appears to be happening is that repeated stroking, especially along the spine or near the base of the tail, builds up sensory input faster than the nervous system can discharge it. The bite isn't hatred, it's a circuit breaker. The replacement behavior is to watch for the 3 warnings that almost always precede the nip. A tail tip that starts to flick, skin that ripples along the back, ears that rotate slightly outward into what people sometimes call airplane ears. When you see any one of those, stop petting, lift your hand, and give your cat about 30 seconds of stillness. Do this consistently, and in my experience, the nips fade within a few weeks. Ignore the signals for months, and you teach your cat that biting is the only volume you'll listen to. I want to pause here for a moment, because we're about halfway through, and this is where I'd love your voice in the mix. Comment the number of the myth you were quietly believing until today. No judgment at all. We've all been there. I've been there. Reading through those comments is genuinely how I decide which video to write next, and it helps other owners realize they aren't the only ones. The fifth myth. If your cat hides when guests come over, they don't like people, and by extension, they only tolerate you because they've gotten used to you. This one hurts because it plants a doubt about your entire relationship. It's spread because we tend to equate sociability with affection, and because hiding looks from the outside like rejection. The current science reframes it entirely. Hiding is a coping strategy, not a personality verdict. Research on feline stress responses, including work published through the International Society of Feline Medicine, consistently shows that access to hiding spots reduces cortisol levels and shortens the time it takes for a cat to return to baseline behavior. A cat who hides from a stranger and then comes out to find you, specifically once the house is quiet, is not a cat who barely tolerates humans. That's a cat who has chosen you as the safe one. The replacement behavior is to stop pulling your cat out from under the bed to socialize them, and to start noticing who they come to first once the danger, in their mind, has passed. Give them at least 2 elevated hiding spots per main living area, a covered perch, a shelf, the top of a wardrobe with a soft mat. Then let them choose. Force the socialization, and you will slowly erode the very trust that makes them seek you out when they finally emerge. The sixth myth. Cats are naturally solitary and don't really need us the way dogs do. This is maybe the most quietly damaging idea on this whole list, because it gives owners permission to underinvest in the relationship. It spread from older ethology writing that described the ancestor of the domestic cat, the African wildcat, as a solitary hunter. That much is true. The leap that isn't true is assuming the modern house cat inherited that same social structure unchanged. Studies from the University of Paris-Nanterre and others have shown that domestic cats, after roughly 10,000 years alongside humans, form complex social bonds not only with each other in multi-cat households, but specifically with their human caregivers. They recognize their own names, as demonstrated in Japanese research led by Atsuko Saito. They distinguish their owner's voice from a stranger's. They show measurable separation-related behaviors when their person is gone for extended periods. The replacement behavior is to treat your cat as a social animal with a low-key dialect, not as a self-sufficient roommate. Talk to them by name several times a day in the same warm register. Narrate small things. You're going to the kitchen. You're heading to bed. It sounds silly for about a week, and then you'll notice something remarkable. Your cat starts anticipating you, meeting you at doorways, chirping in reply. Follow the old myth for years, and you'll build a house where the cat has learned gently and sadly not to expect much conversation. Which brings us to the seventh and biggest myth of them all, the one I saved for last on purpose, because more owners are quietly getting this wrong than any of the others combined. The myth goes like this. If your cat is eating, drinking, and using the litter box, they're fine. And affection is a bonus on top of the basics. It sounds sensible. It sounds responsible. It's the version of cat care most of us grew up with, and it's the one that ages the worst. Here's what the current science and, honestly, 22 years of exam room observation actually show. Affection isn't a luxury layered on top of feline health. It's a measurable input into feline health. Cats in low-interaction homes show higher baseline cortisol, more frequent lower urinary tract issues, more overgrooming, more inflammatory flare-ups, and, in senior cats, a faster cognitive slide. I remember a tabby who came into my clinic last spring for recurring cystitis. Bladder inflammation with no infection, the kind that keeps coming back and no antibiotic will touch. Every workup was clean. What finally shifted her wasn't a medication. It was a conversation with her owner about adding 3 short, structured interaction windows a day. 10 minutes of gentle play in the morning, a slow blink and soft voice check-in at lunch, and a quiet grooming session before bed. 6 weeks later, the flare-ups stopped. That's not magic. That's the nervous system finally getting the signal it had been waiting for. The replacement behavior is specific, and I want you to try it, starting tonight. Pick one moment in your daily routine, ideally the transition between your workday and your evening, and give your cat 90 uninterrupted seconds. Not 5 minutes, not a whole evening, 90 seconds. Sit at their level, offer a slow blink, let them approach on their terms, and if they lean in, run a single finger very lightly along the ridge just behind their ear, where the skull meets the neck. That spot is dense with scent glands, and it's one of the few places a cat cannot easily groom themselves. When you touch it gently, you're doing something they associate with the closest members of their colony. Do that once a day, every day, for 3 weeks, and I promise you, the cat you thought merely tolerated you will start showing up for that 90 seconds, like it's the appointment that anchors their day. Skip it, and you'll keep wondering quietly whether they ever really chose you. So let's tie all of this together, because I don't want you to walk away from this video with 7 scattered corrections. I want you to walk away with a new lens. Your cat is not indifferent. Your cat is not merely tolerating you. Your cat is speaking a language built out of orientation, proximity, soft eyes, tail carriage, chosen safety, and quiet 90-second rituals. And once you learn to read that language, you'll realize the evidence of their love has been all around you the entire time. The purring that isn't quite what you thought, the lap they don't sit in, but the doorway they always drift toward. The slow blink from across the room you almost missed. The nip that was a request, not a rejection. The hiding that ends with them finding you specifically. The name they turn their head to. The scent gland behind the ear that only trusted hands are allowed to touch. If this video helped even one of those pieces click into place for you, do me a small favor. Subscribe, so we can keep replacing old myths with what the science and the exam room actually show. I've got a full library of these coming, one careful topic at a time. Hit the like button if you can, because it genuinely helps this reach another owner who's lying awake tonight wondering whether their cat loves them back. And if you know someone who's still following the old rules, someone who's convinced their cat merely puts up with them, send them this video. They deserve to know what you now know. I'll see you in the next one. Give your little one a slow blink from me tonight.